You want me to put that on my Tudor?
The Diary Threat. Hello, I'm H.G. Tudor. Some detective work has been undertaken by Leafy Greens, who is a poster on the St. Harry's Wife subreddit. They, of course, use her full name, as you know. I do not. And with due credit to Leafy Greens, I'm going to utilize their detective work and observations with regard to a threat concerning a diary of Harry's wife. I'm going to utilize what they've explained and then analyze it with regard to her narcissism, because it is interesting and also gives you a flavor of what is to come. On the 26th of November 2018, an unconfirmed narrative appeared on a low-end gossip website that Harry's wife has a diary that could destroy the royal family. The story at the time was probably ignored because it was provided by New Idea, and the mainstream media didn't want to do anything with regard to calling out the behaviours at that juncture of Harry's wife. The publication stated, and now royal insiders tell New Idea how the Sussexes, who have just celebrated their 6-month wedding anniversary, have been thrown into further turmoil after finding out there's a leak within their team. This individual is preparing to expose the Duchess's palace diaries, which contain a stream of potentially explosive secrets that could cause a crisis for the entire family. Harry's wife has been penning a diary ever since she moved to the United Kingdom, and it's full of bombshells which could destroy the royals, a well-placed palace source reveals. The Redditor, Leafy Green, suggests that that well-placed source might be Harry's wife herself. The article continues by explaining it contains her most personal thoughts. Wow, that must be fascinating. Her feelings about each family member, including who she dislikes, how she's dealt with conflict, royal showdowns which have never been revealed, rows during the wedding planning process, her struggle settling into royal life, and even doubts about whether she could handle the pressure and who gave her the hardest time behind the scenes. Leafy Greens observes that it almost reads like the book jacket of a biography. According to the insider, Harry's wife always had a passion for writing, and since having to give her famous blog The Tig, she's used her diary instead as her outlet, and often jokes about how it acts as her therapist. Now, pausing there, within the narcissist dynamic, assuming she keeps a diary, and there's no reason to think that she does not, what purpose is it serving? Remember, she has to control those people around her, and there have been numerous instances where she has sought to control those people head-on, directly, but she's not been able to. Either it's failed, or the opportunity to do so was taken away from her. Accordingly, what she then has to do is gain control either indirectly or by staying in a position of withdrawal. Remember, the way the narcissism works, it allows the narcissist 3 opportunities to assert control, either directly, indirectly, or through withdrawal. This method is by withdrawal, that she stays in a position of withdrawal from the person that's caused her a problem. Let's say, for instance, Princess Anne has told her that she's a pain in the arse. And Harry's wife sought to say something back, but Anne just gave her a steely glare and wasn't for moving. Thus, Harry's wife had to retreat in order to nullify the threat to control coming from Princess Anne. And then she might ordinarily go and moan to Harry about it, but perhaps Harry's out having some new hair put onto the top of his head. and there's nobody else that she can whinge to. Therefore, she pulls out the diary. Dear diary, Princess Anne is a big meanie. She wouldn't let me do what I wanted to do. I hate her. Thus, by staying in that position of withdrawal and writing in such terms about Princess Anne, it gives her that subconscious need for control. Job done. But what it also does is it starts to create a record of her thoughts, her feelings, her observations at that particular moment in time. Be under no illusion. She did not do this thinking, you know what, I'm going to write all these thoughts and feelings down and one day I am going to print it all. No. She acted in the moment. Remember, she's a mid-range narcissist, and therefore she's governed by moment to moment to moment for the pursuit of the prime aims. Somebody causes a problem, she can't deal with it directly or indirectly, she withdraws, she writes it down, and it creates the collateral benefit for her that at a later juncture she has this juicy diary full of her bitchiness, which she can then utilize towards the prime aims. How so? Well, she could triangulate people. I've got a diary, you know, of all of the awful things that have been done to me. Yes, I wrote it all down, and if you don't do what I want, I'm going to release it. Harry could have been triangulated with this diary and its contents. She may well have used it against King Charles and Queen Camilla. She may well have tried to use it against the Waleses. Furthermore, it produces a residual benefit for her, because undoubtedly there will be an appetite for people to read the slops of her delinquent mind, and therefore she could make money from it. She did not sit down and think to herself, I'm going to write down everything that's happening, because then that will enable me to use it as a threat at a later juncture and to make money off it. No. She wrote it down at the time, driven by her narcissism as a means of getting the control that she needed at that point in time, and then because it happened again and again and again and again, the aggregate effect is the creation of a diary with lots of entries, which then could be utilized to triangulate people by way of threat and or be used for future publication to make money. The content of this diary will be a mishmash of things that actually occurred, but also often skewed and indeed will contain fabrications. Why? Well, in some instances, she will record actual things that occurred. For instance, a courtier said to her, no, you're not allowed to deck the main hall in beige drapes today. That actually happened. But then what would then occur is that she would say they punched her in the face when they said it, or that they made a noise towards her as she walked away, fabricating something else in order to portray that person in the worst possible light. Her narcissism creates that for her to give her that sense of superiority and that sense of control, and she believes that it happened because her narcissism causes her, through that distortion field, to truly believe that it occurred. In the same way that she said, oh, there was a cast member that said to me at the Lion King, when you got married, the whole of the South Africa went out on the streets and celebrated in the same way they did as when Nelson Mandela was freed. She believed that that happened. She didn't think, I know I'm making this shit up, but it sounds good. Her narcissism just caused her to go bleh and bring it up because it needed to control the person that she was talking to, and it revised history. And thus what you will find is with the contents of this diary, it will have events that actually occurred, usually where she has tried to do something she's been told no, or something didn't go her way, and then it will be surrounded by embellishments in terms of making up what people have said, although she believes that what was said, the way that people spoke to her, their reactions, and so on and so forth. Accordingly, the creation of this diary is done as a means to nullifying the threat to control that she faced each and every time that she faced a threat to control. Leafy Greens continues with the analysis by explaining, Harry's wife told The Cut that she found a journal in their cottage and didn't sign an NDA. For someone controlling enough to deliberately leave their belongings in Toronto storage, it's inconceivable that she just left something as personal as a diary in the property of an institution where she felt so unsafe. I agree with that. What she's doing there is she didn't leave any diary or journal. She's triangulating people by making reference to it. After the Cut interview, an insider said, she wrote it all in her diary as an insurance policy. If it ever saw the light of day, it would surely be dynamite. By the sounds of it, this journal was rediscovered this summer, boxed up and shipped back to Monty Shitshow. I don't believe that it was. I believe that it's always been in her possession, but what she wants to do is make it known that it exists. She's triangulating people with it. Harry's wife admitted to keeping a diary during the pregnancy of Archie. We started journaling right when we found out we were pregnant. We'd take little snapshots and stick them in the journal. Triangulation again. Harry said in Wire about the birth of Lilibert, she jotted some thoughts in a kind of journal, which she shared. I read them as a love poem. I read them as a testament, a renewal of our vows. I read them as a citation, a remembrance, a proclamation. Again, the presence of this diary, this journal, pops up once again. Harry's wife stated in 2020 to a podcast called Teenage Therapy that keeping a diary is a very powerful thing. Indeed, it's mentioned once again. Leafy Green suggests that these threats seem to be dangling a carrot in front of everyone, like a diary has been specifically written for public consumption. It hasn't. It's been written for the reasons that I've explained. But she is correct, or he is correct, about it being dangled as a carrot, because it's being dangled that way for the purposes of triangulation. Accordingly, the fact is that she has created a diary, a journal, but was created each and every time someone caused a problem for her, and it has created a mass of information which is still sat there, which at some juncture she's likely to utilize for the purposes of triangulation, and moreover, by trying to make money off the back of what will be an assortment of truths and a lot of embellishments and lies. But the diary exists, and she's repeatedly utilized it by way of threat for the purpose of triangulation to once again gain control and draw fuel. I'm H.G. Tudor. Thank you for listening.